Thanks for your company. The details now. President Akufo-Addo has tasked the Inspector General of Police to apprehend killers of late Infantuman MP Eko Hayford. Else, quote, what will happen will happen. Describing the murder of the MP as a big blow to him, President Akufo-Addo revealed that he made it known to the IGP that he expects results from this particular case. This came when he visited the bereaved family in the Central Region Monday afternoon.
Inspector General of Police
So you have the president there speaking in Chi. Basically what he was saying is that the death of the MP is a big blow to him, and he's tasked the IGP to do all within his power to find the killers of the incident. And he says besi, which means if not, what will happen. For the president, this unfortunate occurrence is a test case for the IGP, James Opon-Buenu. But what could this possibly mean, and what is this seeming wave of attacks on politicians lately? Adam Bona is a security analyst. He joins us via Zoom with more. Good morning, Mr. Bona. Thanks for your time. First, what do you make of the president's task to the IGP?
I would say it is probably the president literally telling the IGP that I appointed you and I can fire you if you don't find the killers of this the killers of this MP. If you don't find them, I appointed you and I could fire you, literally. I mean, if you have a boss who tells you you've got to deal with this issue or what will happen would happen, then you should know that your job is on the line. The president couldn't have probably said it better as the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. One of the things that one of the roles, one of the things he's supposed to be doing for all of us in terms of performance is to ensure that we are all very safe within this country. And so if he appoints the IGP, then most likely he can task the IGP to perform a certain function. If he doesn't do that, he might take an action. Literally, that's what the president said. I mean, if you ask me, to put it in a very simplistic term, that's all he said.
Okay. Prior to this incident, we saw the killing of the law professor, Bene. We've seen other incidents right here in this country. Does the president's open statement about this one fuel the perception that politicians are more concerned about themselves? Also because this incident has brought to fore the debate about getting protection in terms of police officers or some other form of protection for MPs.
Well, yes, I mean, we probably, the president didn't have to speak directly to this issue for some of us to conclude that when it has to do with the politicians, they are more concerned about themselves. And we can see members of parliament actually ganging up and saying we should give them security. As we speak, University of Cape Coast students are frightened, frightened into the bone, to their bones. Armed robbers attacking them, left and right. I got up this morning, received messages that University of Cape Coast has come under attack. Before this unfortunate incident took place, the murder of the MP, Ahmed Swale had been murdered. JB Dankwa had been murdered. There had been the lady from the port, the Ghana port, murdered. The law professor murdered. The list goes on. There had been several other armed robberies. Some of them have led to deaths. And so I would have wished that as a president who Ghanaians voted for, instead of speaking directly to just one, singling out this one and taxing the IGP to deal with it, or else he's likely to lose his job, the president should have spoken directly to the IGP, letting him know that crime, we've seen crime going up. And so I'm giving you a certain time limit to come up with a strategy, deal with this issue of crime going up and violent crimes going up, or else this is what I'm going to do. But the president singling out this, attests to what some of us have been saying all the time, that when it has to do with the politicians, they look, to see how they can take care of themselves first. Meanwhile, we put them there. So I would have wanted to see the president mention Ahmed Swale. In any case, Ahmed Swale probably died, on the job. He died because we are told he's a journalist, and there's been a lot of issues surrounding that, and it's taken an international dimension. Rating has coming down when it comes to protection of journalists and free speech and all that. And so I would have wished that the president would address all these deaths and ask the IGP and the security agencies, the national security minister, who is tasked with the role of making sure that intelligence is picked and shared with the police and all that. Once what we are seeing points to a certain intelligence failure, it doesn't exist at all when you talk about intelligence from secessionists to armed robbers, and we don't actually know what seems to be going on within the security fraternity. And the simple reason is that when those who are supposed to be in plain clothes are now wearing clothes that we can see them, then the armed robbers are always going, or the bad people would be one step ahead of us. Anyone who understands security will tell you that the armed robbers seems to be not one step, seems to be a mile away from the security agencies.
All right, Mr. Bona, you made reference to some previous incidents, and I'd like that to bring some of them back. And I must say that these are not all the murder cases we've recorded over the past years, but these are high-profile ones. So I'd just like us to bring those back. You've mentioned Ahmed Swale and a couple others, but let's bring those back. Unresolved murders and recent killings. Okay, let's start with recent killings. So a 64-year-old retired biochemist was said to have been killed by 3 traditional priests on the 15th of January 2020 at Adesso. The three traditional priests have been charged with conspiracy to commit a crime. Then we have Maxwell Atakra, a 44-year-old pastor with the Jehovah Nissi Church at Edriso. He was murdered at his residence in Santasi in Yinim, near the new site, on August 12, 2020 at about 2 a.m. Then there's Akwesi Banahene, a timber contractor. He was shot dead by a known assailant at his residence at Mim in the Sunafo North municipality of the Ahafo region on Friday, August 21, 2020. Then there's Augustina Tay, who's also known as Adroa Kelempe, a resident of Desuenim, a suburb of Aguna Stredro. She was last seen on the 27th of August 2020, was found lying in a pool of blood in a bush with several machete wounds. Then there's this one which broke a lot of hearts. Nyamnyo Nyate, a 10-year-old girl who was found lying in a pool of blood with her throat slit at Ejekojo, Sun City on the 4th of September 2020. And her father, Frederick Nate, said the CID revealed that Nyamnyo had also been stabbed, and this was discovered after her body was examined. So these are recent killings that we have. Let's go to unresolved murders, those that have lasted, some of them for about 3 years. We have Fennec Otri. This is more than 3 years, definitely, in 2014. He's the head of Maritime Entertainment, was the head of Maritime Entertainment and former manager of Hip Life artist Kwalkese. He was found dead at his Manette Gardens residence in March 2014. The motivation for the killing is unknown, but the police say they are still investigating the matter. We have JB Dankwedu. He was MP for Boakwa North, was stabbed to death on the 9th of February 2016 at his Shiashi residence in Accra. The accused has been remanded in prison custody for 4 years now, and the case is still in court. Then we have Josephine Asante, Marketing and Public Affairs Manager of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, in charge of the Tema Port. She was stabbed to death at her residence at Community 25 in Tema on January 14, 2019. We have Ahmed Hussein Swale. He was an undercover journalist with Anas Arimaya on Nas's Tiger IPI. He was shot to death on Wednesday, 16 January 2019. Eyewitnesses say 2 men on motorbikes fired at him at close range. No one is standing trial more than 1 year after his murder. Then we have Ohineba Kojo-Fodjo. He was the Asampong Hine of Kumasi, murdered on the Dra and Kransa Highway around Ibium in the Ashanti region on Sunday, 18th August 2019, around 4:30 p.m. 3 suspects have been arrested in connection with the murder. So, Mr. Bona, these are some of the high-profile cases we've been looking at. Obviously, one of them being recently Professor Bene. Do you have any hope that the president's directive will in any way change the narrative with this particular killing of the MP Ekokwansa Hayford?
Well, not really. Not that some of us can probably say that. No, I don't think so. There is one that recently took place. I think it was over the week. No, Thursday last week. Peace Council local mediator was shot at. When they had gone to the Samoba area to mediate in a chieftaincy dispute, and a gunman or some gunmen came in there, opened fire, killed them. And as we speak, information reaching me indicate that these suspected murderers are still roaming on the street of Samoba, and the MCE, the ECE, and the commanders there, have not effected any arrest. And so, with all this information coming in after murders, it will be very difficult to say that this singular directive from the president is to do any change. The fundamentals, as far as I'm concerned, we need to get the basic fundamentals in terms of our security strategy right. Once those ones are, we don't have them, it becomes difficult to say, oh, go after these guys. First of all, what are we talking about? One of the cardinal principles in terms of fighting crime is to make sure you stop crime from taking place. How do you do that? You ensure that your people, in terms of the national security, the BNI guys who are deployed within these communities, pick information, analyze the information, share the information with their sister agencies, the police, the military, and the rest. But unfortunately, we have a certain national security that is probably not up to date in terms of what they are doing. And then when it comes to, police themselves, in terms of their training, police officers, most of them are ill-trained. Most of them don't know what they are doing. And so these crimes take place, and sometimes you think that they should be able to crack it, and they are not able to crack it. What I'm saying is that we have too many cold case files languishing within the CID. And when I say languishing within the CID, we seem to have either some contract killers who are on the loose, or some serial killers who are on the loose. Either there's somebody who is benefiting from these murders that seems to be going on, or there is some psychopath, some serial killers who are out there ready to murder people because they know they will never be arrested. And so as far as I'm concerned, the basics, we need to get the basics right. So the president would have to probably relook at it and say, I need a strategy in combating the new wave of crime. Now, just look at it. Just recently, we had about 400 or so sidearms coming into the country, imported by some smugglers. We have, and most of these murders that are taking place these days, you could say 8 out of 10 of them involve the use of sidearms or firearms. Illicit firearms everywhere in this country. What are we doing to pick what is already in the hands of bad people? What are we doing to stop what is coming through the port? We don't seem to be doing much. And so as far as I'm concerned, and even education, with regards to being alert, unfortunately, this MP is dead. But I would have wished that the state spend some money to educate Ghanaians, all of us, with regards to how to be alert, how to, take our personal security a bit serious. You know that we are told he went for a campaign and he was coming back around 1 a.m. when he met these armed robbers and met his untimely death. Probably, if he had slept in that community, and this is a police officer, a retired police officer. And so one would say that sometimes when the education is not going on the way it should do, you have some people relapsing or forgetting that this street you are going to take, there are no street lights. As we speak, even in Accra, street lights don't work. Even though we pay for street light levies, they don't work. Go to Akosombo, go to the eastern region. Now, go to the central region. Central region is becoming a hotbed for crimes lately. It used to, as for the north, it goes on Tamale, Techiman route, Bambamboy route, and all these areas. There are highway robberies that are taking place daily. Most of it are not reported in the media at all. The reason why we seem to be talking about these things is because it is home with us in the central region, very close. Last year or so, a woman reported around the Person area where there was a road blocked by armed robbers. There was a police checkpoint not far away, and they were robbed. And when they called the police couldn't respond. You know why? Because most police patrol vehicles don't have the requisite fuel to move around. You see the vehicle, you go there, and they tell you that, you know what, we cannot drive a mile away because the fuel we have is just a gallon. If we go, we might not get there. And so they'll give you excuses. These are things they can't put forward. So let's have, probably an open
conversation about it. Mr. Bona, I'll come back to talk to you about what we should do to avert or reverse the right word, reverse the trend. Also because we are going into an election in less than 2 months. Let me get onto the streets of Accra. We've been speaking to some people about what they make of the general security situation. We'll get that shortly. But Mr. Bona, let me come to you then now. About a month or two ago, we reported grenades found at our beaches. You just mentioned the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority seizing some cache of ammunition. Now we are seeing all these crimes, murders, killings, robberies. We are less than 2 months to an election, and we know how it usually gets within that period. What can we do realistically to reverse this trend and change the narrative?
You see, in security and probably intelligence and counterintelligence, when you get to a situation like this, what you do is to do quick changes to the structure you are known to be using for your operational duties. But at the moment, the structure has not really undergone any changes. If you remember, I think 2018, crime wave went up. And we had Operation Calm Life, I think relaunched Operation Calm Life. And that actually brought the crime rate in this country so low. We had motorbikes. We had some motorbikes were quickly procured for police officers to, be able to go through the corners of this country, go through areas that, call it vehicle, cars can't go, patrol vehicles can't go. They had, a certain mindset was passed on to the police officers. And by way of doing that, or by extension, the criminals actually had to take some amount of 2 steps back to relook at their strategy. And if we had carried on, probably that would have reduced the crime rates, considerably as we speak. But we haven't done that. I am waiting to see probably the security sector coming up with a blueprint to tell us that they are probably bringing Operation Calm Life relaunched or third phase, and these are the resources they are putting in going into 2020. Fighting crime could be, psychological. You fight them, psychological. You put in 1 or 2, and let them know you put in so much. That way, they would have to look at their strategies. The criminals. It helps you to buy time. But at the moment, crimes are taking place, and it looks like we have lost it. There is no directive with regards to what we have to do. So, probably on a personal note, I would say that as citizens, if you don't have to go out in the night, don't go out. If it's not so important, don't go out. Be home or be wherever you are, especially you, the journalist. Sometimes you leave your workplace very late. If need be, you have to read, you have to speak to your managers, let them know crime rates are going up. And so probably I would not want to work till late. Or if I have to work till late, I will need an escort home if you are not sure. Depending on who you are, keep changing your routes. You don't have to use the same route every day, because if you do, chances are that they will rob you. Mine is that the excessive use of money. We are in the season where monies are displayed, people are sharing money. And so you have politicians carry money in their car boots, and therefore you can see crime rates have gone up. And if you check from 1992, around this time, when elections is coming nearer, you have crime rate going up. So what we are seeing today, even though unprecedented, it has always been this way when we are going into it. But this time around, it is probably worsened. And so the more we reduce the, moving cash, we move with cash, the more we limit our chances of getting robbed and sometimes getting killed. And also those we associate with. But on the front of the leadership, I would have wanted to see the president make some significant changes. Even though one will say it won't be too good, but in terms of security, every time you sleep, you wake up and you don't know, and you are going to be confronted with an issue of one bad robbery or the other. I went to bed last night praying that, there shouldn't be any crime. I wake up this morning hearing that robbery has taken place in a very, in a way that we've never seen on University of Ghana, University of Cape Coast campus.
Mr. Bona,
I'm going to see that going on.
Mr. Bona, I just like the bit of education you're giving us. I'll come back to get your last words, and I want you to help us know what we should do when we face an attack, because sometimes we hear that people resist and they are murdered or killed. I'll give you time to think through that. We want it to be very brief and concise, but let me just take some thoughts from people on the streets of Accra. We've been talking to them about the security situation and what they think is the cause.
Night. But the drone adwa police ni bia wo kwam.
I'm mounting him say kwan so your mounted police barrier. Obeko kakra no we share police for kwan so. Kumasi
barrier, from Accra to Kumasi barrier bia wo kwan so bia esikrom ensi wiram. E wiram so na am Roberts no so wo. Mi wa mo ya adwuma so ma de eti. Barriers no kura beduru ba bi no kura no unhu omo ma. Ugosi am Robert you obato no wo to wie na munya aboba ne bia mo de kire police for na wo mo ahu se e wo mo ankasa aboba ne bia o munya no wo hefa wo mo a wo mo ma police for no companies akese no o enum ne enum sa na timi fa police after all ko VIP kura na Kumasi to Accra no police wo mu nyina kwasa kwa ye kwa ye de yankwa na nam sa na nkofo no ha ya adwen na say ade a nka every station bia kasa na bu kasa police abandiama police for no abu wo sen komede patrol kwan no so station bia wo ayi bia no se dura najo a komede patrol kwan no so because am Roberts no me ebi che me no me hu se ka bi so ne light na aso mu hu se police na no mu nyina ya o ma dwen se komu to wirem e wa na kwa na o kuratuo no kasa da bi enye your friends nye police and what the two shia car na e ba no 10 ye ansa no munya kwa ba robo yen e wa akachi enti se wo mu yusu your friends wo mu petrol cars no na wo mu tim na sebi etuo ba kokura na edaka wo mu ho a wo mu hu se wo mu esari no e ba pe wo mu nyina bedwane.
The main fact is, you see, the Ghana police, what they have been doing is so bad in the sense that, you see, these armed robbers, it seems they have something to do with the police. It's something that they've, come together to do, in the sense, the robbers, as they are coming, and the police too will be patrolling. But I wonder why, at times, after the police have gone to the patrol and then these armed robbers will go at their back and then do that kind of robbing.
But the drivers, the armed robbers, I mean, they might just be smart and are monitoring so that when the police move, it could be that.
Yeah, actually, I know, I understand you, but the fact is, it seems there is a connection between both of them, the armed robbers and the police.
You're suspecting that?
Yes, that is my suspicious about that.
So, Mr. Bona, we've heard from these two persons at the transport yard here in Accra. One person says the police have vehicles, they don't see them patrolling enough, and the other suspects that some officers may be in bed with the robbers. So, just quickly, what does one do when you're confronted? When you're on the highway and robbers come, or you're in your house and robbers come, what should you do at least to protect your life and that of your family members?
Well, yes, first of all, you do everything you have to do to prevent a robbery from taking place, or you yourself or your household becoming a target, or you are on the highway, you are driving. Whatever you can do in order not to be a target, you should do that. And one of it has to do with you have to do what I call a quick risk assessment of yourself. You are driving from this place to the Volta region. You are driving to the north. You would have to look at it and ask questions. What are some of the times that you are going to have maybe Accra Kumasi or Accra Wa or Bamboy, wherever, Tamale route? At what times is this road busy? So you don't want to travel on this road at a time when it is not busy. That's first of all. And make sure that most drivers don't know that usually the stops, when you stop to eat, sometimes you stop at this rest house with facilities to eat. That is where sometimes you have criminals lurking. And so as much as possible, if you can carry, especially when you are in your own SUV or vehicle traveling outside your jurisdiction, if you can carry with you food, water, that would let you park by the side of the road, somewhere at a petrol station and eat your food quickly and start going the better. Because usually, on my way some time ago to the upper house to Wa, I stopped somewhere to eat, and I noticed a young man, moving around and making phone calls. So what I did was to confront him and take a photo of him, and I told him, I have a photo of you. I'm going to share it with everybody, share it with the police. On my way, if my vehicle is buckled, they will come after you. He only smiled. The next thing I saw was him going behind the thing and taking his motorbike and speeding off. Fortunately, nothing happened, but it was because I was vigilant. But assuming that you were home and your house was broken into, don't give them what I call the eye contact. The moment you begin to give them eye contact, first thing that comes into their mind is either you are trying to see whether you know them, or you are trying to identify them, and in most cases, especially robberies that take place at home, those who will rob you at home usually know you, they've been trailing you, they've been coming around, they've surveyed you, so there will be people you would have encountered. And so giving them an eye contact means that you are likely to identify them, and chances are that they will kill you or they will harm you. So don't do that, but as much as possible, still advance to know who are these people. How is he walking? Is he limping? Is he tall? Is he, fat? Is he chubby? How is he like? On the highway, and when they come in, don't attempt to negotiate. Whatever they ask you to give it out to them. If you had $1 billion at home and they ask you, give me the $1 billion, you give it to them. Don't negotiate. But as much as possible, the fine details you can pick. If you're on the highway, as you drive, especially in the night, be vigilant. If you encounter a roadblock and you realize that you just run into it, attempting to run usually would get them far into your vehicle because they think that once you run, there are two things. You are running with the money, or you are running with whatever the goodies they wanted, or you go and blow the alarm. You go and report, and police will come. And so they will first of all try to immobilize you. But if you were about 100 meters away from the scene, and you can turn, and usually don't panic. Most people panic. And the moment you panic, chances are that you are going to go into a ditch. If you know what happened to the MP, the MP's driver, when they got in there, we are told the MP tried negotiating with them or tried telling them who he was, and the driver attempted to do a U-turn and he went into a ditch. I would say that once you panic, chances are that your reflexes are not good, your ability to think, you are not able to think straight. You go into a ditch, and sometimes, even if they don't kill you, they'll beat you mercilessly because why are you running? And so once you come with it, stay there, let them, don't negotiate.
All right.
Whenever they ask you, just pick it and give it to them. So those are some of the tips I would want to give out.
I am so grateful for these tips, and I trust that they would help our audience, and we'll do well to re-echo it on our other platforms. Thank you so much.